Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to week 3. My name is Tony Adams, Vice President with the Kansas Auto Body Association. And on behalf of the association, I want to welcome all of you tonight. We've got a great lineup for you this evening. As a reminder, or if this is the first time joining us, all of our presenters are muted, so be sure you send in any questions through the chat box, and my buddy James and I will field the questions and get them to the appropriate people at the right time. And with that, here's my buddy James.
Thanks, Tony. Hey, I want to thank everybody from the NABA and KABA. Tonight we have a great lineup. We have Kristen, we have Larry, we have Mark, and we also have Jason. So this is awesome. So again, we want to thank our sponsors, and let's kick it over to Kristen and the boys, and they are going to do what they do best and tell us how to do our jobs better and make money.
So we're gonna do what we do best. We're gonna talk. That's really that's what we do, right? So I'm gonna learn my way through GoToMeeting here. And James, I'm gonna ask for some. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, there we are. So awesome. All right, so we're going to cover today a class that came out of our 20 group. So it started with some questions that came in. We run a texting service for technicians called Pick a Tech, where techs in the middle of the day can text us questions about fixing cars, and Jason and Larry here handle that. You don't want your techs talking to me, that'd be bad, right? So we came up with this question on included and not included on bedside panels. Jason took it from his technician 20 group into Larry's estimating 20 group, and then it's just been a really good class. So what really worked out well is we're all here together today at Collision Hub because of the World Fair. So instead of everybody having to be in a webinar, we're all kind of in the room. And Mark Olson, wave Mark.
Hey.
Yeah, Mark Olson's even with us this week, so he may leave after tonight. We don't know. So he may call it quits and he's out of here. But Larry, I'm going to let you take it from here because you are our estimating guru. And
oh boy,
we are living in your world.
Well, what we have here with this particular thing, it started with a question from Logan Payne of Payne and Sons in Dallas. And it was basically based upon included, not included operations on this actual 2007 Ram on changing the bedside panel. Logan happens to be one of my clients and stuff like that. And he made a couple of these pictures that you're going to get here are actually from him, posted on a couple of the pages on Facebook. And it brought up a lot of questions and stuff like that. And then my group, 20 group says, hey, why don't we do a class on bedside panel replacement? I was like, really? And once again, I might be thinking a little above things and stuff like that. And I said, okay, well, let's go through this and see. And I do a couple of comparisons. So this is the initial test study here. It's the bedside panel and the rear bumper here that's damaged on this car. So on your damage report, and we were trying to cover this so that the group would understand. So this is what the 20 group was going through when they were actually doing this. So some of the things we want to cover or go over or look at would be gathering the data, for making your damage report, which is an estimate, and the information that would be, you're measuring your scanning of the vehicle and stuff like that, vehicle information, make, model, VIN, options that are obvious to you that you don't have to go crazy looking for. And then obviously you want to look up your repair procedures, and you can run down a real big squirrel hole or rabbit hole trying to figure out these procedures as you click on different things and find things out. I'm going to go over some of that tonight. You want to keep it in the family. This is one of my biggest pet peeves with shops when I do estimate reviews and talk about estimates and go over their damage reports, is that they're all over the place. They start at the quarter, they go to the front fender, then they go to one door, they go to the other door, they go to the trunk. It's just all over the place. Keeping that family and stay there. I'm going to show you some stuff on that. Disassemble the vehicle while taking photos and all these steps. Disassemble the vehicle within reason so that you can, have no hidden damage. So basically, you're writing your final repair bill on the very first day. You're not doing it, as you go along, creating supplements. The shop should have almost no supplements, maybe one for maybe an incorrect part price that was given to you, and or you actually need a dealer invoice or a separate invoice for the repairs you did to the vehicle so that you know what's going on. But that should be it. And it doesn't matter how many times you have to call the insurance company back. Now you want to do a review or peer review or review of your damage report and make any adjustments, and then obviously a finalization of that report with your team so they know what's going to happen with this vehicle, and it can go into the bullpen and wait for parts to come in and stuff. So what we need to know about gathering the data or the information that we're going to need. What's the facts of the loss? What were the conditions that particular day when the vehicle was involved in the collision event? Is all the paperwork signed? Photographs taken of it? Paint film mil thickness readings should be performed to know if the vehicle's been painted. If it was painted, do you have to reduce some of that material thickness? Is there an issue or a problem with open blends on the vehicle from a previous accident? Or has the vehicle not been painted? And this is all part of your guarantee for your vehicle to keep in the proper material thickness for your paint manufacturer's warranty. All your pre-repair scans, the pre-repair measuring, and then you want to classify your vehicle. Is it a fast repair? Is it a quick repair or extended repair? Fast repairs are usually the ones that people make the most mistakes on. These are the vehicles that have very light to minimal damage and they don't measure them. And it could become an issue. So you measure it, and then you can put it into fast repair, which would be just parts changing and some painting and no structural damage. Quick repair is a quick pull on the frame machine or something like that. Obviously, it's going to take you much more time to set it up and take it off the frame bench than it would actually be to actually pull the car for this particular type repair. A rail that's slightly swayed just really needs one tug. Well, I can get this done pretty quickly if I'm doing it in my blueprinting section. And then extended repair obviously is a rail replacement, quarter rear body panel, rear rail replacement, something much larger, B-pillar assembly replacement. So that's your classification of your vehicles. Looking up the procedures, you should do it by VIN. This gives you all the codes and all the information for that particular vehicle. To get the build sheet, and this is only going to be available through the OEM repair site. You'll look up safety precautions for working on the vehicle, inspections that are required after a collision. You'll need to know the construction or design of the vehicle, the type of substrates or materials that we utilize to make this vehicle, the tensile strength to understand what can and cannot be repaired or attempted repairs. Remember, anything really over 590 megapascals is not going to be repairable, even if you think it is. What's the SRS component inspections or rules for SRS components? Obviously, is the vehicle equipped with ADAS or has ADAS systems in it? This particular 07 doesn't. Specific repair protocols for the vehicle. Your repair materials, chemicals, or agents that are going to be required for this. Remember, this is a well-bonded procedure on this particular vehicle. And then any mechanical, electrical information that you'll need while working on the vehicle. Some vehicle makers, when you disconnect the battery, you're going to be prompted to do a couple of resets to certain other things besides the radio, besides the express window up and down. There might be other things or even mechanical items such as mass airflow sensors or spark ignition information that needs to be reset just because you disconnected the battery. So it's important to look up each procedure. Keeping the family. Read your P pages for your system. Utilize the DEG to look up some information. Know your system. I don't know how many people I've seen when I do estimate reviews or do an RTA and I ask questions about it on a final bill. They don't even know their own estimating system. Start with the right group and work your way around. So if you're starting, the car's hitting the rear quarter panel, you start with the rear bumper, rear tail light, trunk, quarter panel, and move your way across that way in that area and do it in a logical fashion. Any items that are for that particular panel, such as adhesive material, weld-through primer, sound dampening material, sound dampening pads, any type of seam sealers that you might need. That should stay in that, let's say, this quarter panel or bedside panel area. Items that are for the overall vehicle, washing the car covers, that can all go in miscellaneous operations. Also, make notes on some of these operations or some of these materials you purchase, and this will help explain it to not only somebody in your own shop, but also be able to explain it to the customer or the consumer, the vehicle owner, and also the insurance company if you need to, explain why you're doing something. Maybe you're out sick and somebody else has to go over the estimate with the insurance company or the customer and has to be able to answer some of these questions. Disassembly of the vehicle. Take photos prior to disassembly of the vehicle. Remove components to view the hidden damage to the vehicle, or if there is, if any. Check for secondary or indirect sustained damage, damage that's going to be away from the area of direct impact, especially suspension components in the rear on a full-length suspension or European cars. To complete your, you want to complete your damage report on the very first day. So parts, prices have to be checked. All your measuring has to be done. Maybe a pre-wheel alignment check. Find out from the dealer how much the resets are going to be for this particular vehicle, based on what's equipped with it. Wheel alignment sometimes, camera re-aiming. Be as accurate as possible on the very first day. And you want to take all your undamaged components, separate them out, wrap them, protect them, put them someplace. Any of the damaged components should be put into some sort of receptacle or bin. So when the insurance adjuster comes down, you can just pull those parts out and he can take his photos of those particular damaged parts, and everything's in one contained area, not all over the place. Adjuster, review the report. Well, you want to review your damage report. You got to read it yourself. You got to make sure it's correct. Might have another damage assessor or adjuster in the estimator in the office go over it. Check that all your operations are notated on your damage report. This might be that you might have to take some notes here and there. Check all the part prices with the dealer. Make sure that they're all correct and priced properly. Even your part numbers are correct. Review the report with your team. Make any adjustments to it. We're going to blend this, or we're not going to blend this, or yes, we're going to replace this instead of repairing it. You're going to finalize your report, and then you're going to save and print any of the documents that you do need for this repair process. Most of the time, you're not going to print anything. You'll share it to the service manager, the foreman, the tech directly through some sort of file sharing throughout the shop, or the access for that RO number that they allow the technicians in the shop to get a hold of. And now you're going to finalize this report with the damage assessor, the foreman, the parts manager, and the technician, so everyone's involved in this and knows what's going on. Technicians will be the body tech, the frame tech, or the refinish tech. Review all the operations, review the repair plan, map the vehicle out, put a window sticker on, have all the information on that, and then I call it the bullpen. You send it over to the bullpen for the insurance company to exercise their option if they want to see the vehicle and view it before they pay for it. Or reimburse the customer, I should say. And for parts arrivals, remember, no vehicle repair ever starts until the parts are all received. Now, once again, do I need a body side molding or an emblem to start the repairs? No, I want to make sure I have all my other items in before I start my repairs. Otherwise, you don't want a car stuck on the frame bench or even in a repair bay waiting for these parts to come in. And I see that happen way too much with shops that are trying to rush vehicles through. So some of these following photos here, these are courtesy of Payne & Sons. And this is basically what he did to try and show some of the processes of doing this, and then we expanded on it. So here's the original panel on the truck removed. Obviously, the new panels above. Here's the brand new panel that came from the manufacturer, just an E-coat. Notice the color difference, so you're gonna have to, and this is what he put on here, is mix and match, paint the inside of the panel, the backside, which is not an included operation. So he's going to have to get that grayish, greenish tinted color there, and then have the overspray of red. Well, you took off the panel and you can't get in here beforehand, but you're going to have to wash all that dirt and debris off. Remember, you're putting adhesive in here, or even if you're welding, you could set something on fire. Adhesive's not going to stick to dirt and grime. Dirt and grime is going to get inside the adhesive when you put it on if you don't remove that stuff. So all that stuff's going to have to be washed, and some of that adhesive has to be removed, which is not an included operation. Is the old foams and adhesives that are not included in the removal of the panel and the replacement of it. You can see here it's fairly thick. It breaks off pretty easily once it's separated. Adjacent panel repair is not included. So you have the inner bed panel, you have the front header panel, you have sometimes additional reinforcing panels that are there. You have sometimes a rear bedside panel extension. You have the outer wheelhouse, and of course you have all these flanges that will have to be taken care of. More adjacent panel areas here. The tailgate striker panel also has to be taken care of. Wheel lip, some hammer and dolly work will have to be done here, straightening up, actually taking down the weld nuggets, because you're going to be welding this a different location than original, and it's got to be smoothed out because it's all got to come down to bare metal so that you can put the adhesive on. The adhesive required by Mopar is the Fuser or 3M, which is a 3 application type. You're going to sand both panels down to bare metal in the area where adhesive is going to go. You're going to put adhesive on both panels, and then put a third bead to keep bond line thickness. So basically the bond line thickness is there to actually adhere the panels together. The bare metal application of the adhesive is there because it's a corrosion resistant type adhesive. There's another picture here of the area. So let's take a look at the damage report on this particular vehicle and what we're going to have to look at on here. So we have on the damage report, we have a couple of different areas here. We have our, we did this with no blend. So we weren't gonna blend the tailgate, and we weren't gonna blend into the cab corner. We're just painting and doing the bedside panel as a standalone. How we run these classes, like we did a frame class one time, I said, well, somebody went to tow the truck, the pickup truck, and when they tied it down to the bed, they ripped one of the formed holes in the frame rail by trying to strap the car down to the bed, and they ripped it. So we got to change the frame, because how are we going to write a repair, and how could this possibly happen? A frame got damaged. Well, in this case, we're changing just the bumper and the bedside panel, so we get a really good view of what it would cost to just replace that bedside panel, so we get a good idea. We use a $50 an hour labor rate with a 5% tax and $30 an hour for paint materials, just so when we make comparisons, it's all apples to apples. So that's why it says no blend. So you do your vehicle diagnostics, your pre-repair scan, your post-repair pre-dealer scan, and the post-dealer scan. Check the paint film mill thickness, wheel alignment check on this particular vehicle, make sure there's nothing wrong with the vehicle suspension, and then also look up the OEM repair procedures. The frame, we have pre-measured the body frame, pre-measure the vehicle suspension mounting areas, and measure the bed to make sure the bed structure isn't misaligned. On the rear bumper, overhaul the rear bumper. This bumper is a chrome bumper. It's $667. The bumper bolts obviously are going to be needed, such as the bumper nuts also. Some retainers, everything was rusted and damage was there. So, you had to heat these up to get them apart and break them off. The step pad is included, but the step pad was damaged. License plate, R&I, and the license plate bracket also has to be R&I on that. On the rear lights, the tail lamp obviously is going to be included because you're changing the bed, but the license lamps are not included on the rear bumper assembly. For the fuel neck, has to come out of the way because that's got to be detached from the bed, and that's not an included operation. And I put down partial on that. We're not taking it out of the gas tank, so I knocked the time down a little bit. Seal and protect the fuel tank opening area. This is so that you don't have this fumes of gas leaking out, and God forbid something goes wrong inside the shop and somebody wants to light up a cigarette in there, and then you have the Memorial Baseball Park where your shop once stood. Wheels, R&I the front wheel, measure the vehicle on both the left and right side so we can get access to the ball joints. R&I the rear wheel to measure the vehicle, also take the bed off, and then test drive the vehicle after repairs, and then retorque the lug nuts after the test drive. Pickup box bed, so we have R&I the bed, R&I the ground strap, prop and support the bed assembly on some sort of bed holder or bed area. The bolts have to be replaced in repair procedures, as do the J-clips. So now we got that front panel that has to be repaired. We're going to replace the outer panel in this particular case. Mask the backside matting flanges, trial fit the components. Test weld and destructive test weld the mag welding. We got some mag welds we have to put on this. Squeeze type resistant spot welds, we have to do some testing on that. So we're going to need some gas, we're going to need some mag wire, squeeze type resistant spot weld tips, 2 of them. Weld safety setup, this is putting up our welding screens, make sure our fire extinguishers in the area and stuff. Let's see here, weld blankets. We can't charge for weld blankets because we're supposed to have those, but we can charge to put them on. Lord fuser, 2 tubes. Pumpable seam sealer, sprayable seam sealer. Now remember, sprayable seam seal is not an included operation when replacing a panel, only the pumpable is. We're gonna need some acid dip brushes so we can wipe on our sealers. Feather edge prime and block for all the areas that were damaged that we're working on, which is basically all flange damage. So we're gonna need to do some sanding on that. Mask the bed for primer, epoxy corrosion protection, cavity wax. This is all in enclosed areas, probably done with a wand or something similar. There's a reinforcement panel that's, let's see here, $15. And so we went ahead and replaced that because it was cheaper to replace and then just put a repair on it. As we go down, repair the, refinish the tail, repair the right reinforcement tailgate panel. That's that striker panel there. The wheel liner, R&I, which I don't know why it's not included, but it wasn't included. The right wheelhouse, we got that, doing some repair to that. The inner panel, the inner closure panel, outer panel repair, the upper reinforcement, reinforcement hinge panel, and that's it. So what do we got here? Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going back for a second here. 9. Looks like 9 panels that we have that have to be repaired. So you have inside and outside on those flanges. So you got 18 panels, areas that you're touching to do the repair. And once again, this is straightening the panels, sanding the area. The panels that touch each other will have to be bare metal on both sides because we're going to be using the adhesive as a corrosion resistant application. And then once everything's sealed together and all put together, you're gonna have to get inside the back side of the panel with a wand, and all those recessed areas where the flanges are, you're gonna have to coat those areas with epoxy primer. Once that's cured and dried, then you're gonna have to spray the anti-corrosion compound. And the 2 of them together are better than anything else singularly to prevent corrosion from getting in there or slow down the corrosion that's gonna happen. So the restraint system, airbag diagnosis, R&I the airbag fuse because it's in the repair procedure, stump test of the seat belts and the locking system of the seat belts. The battery, R&I the battery during multiple times is for DNR, disconnect and reconnect. Reset the memory functions for the vehicle. In the front, we needed to take out the lowest splash shield so that we can measure the frame. It blocks the area. So now we get to our miscellaneous items on here. So wash the vehicle, before the repairs, car cover, the wheel, the floor mat, and the seat cover, cover the car for repair, car cover for primer, car cover for refinish, which basically is all going over the bed and stuff like that. You're polishing, wash the bed for priming, wash and prep the bed for refinish, wash the vehicle after glazing for reassembly, your final detail and vacuuming of the vehicle and cleaning up the vehicle, your hazardous waste such as solid, liquid, and metal material or plastic material, paper waste. Remove the shipping labels, color mix and match and spray out card on this. There's a few different variances, half hour each, so an hour and a half for these 3 closest ones. Touch up the bolt heads, denib and buff the panels, sand and polish the panels, whichever way you want to classify that. In this case, here's the calculations here, plus the material that's needed. Buff adjacent panels to luster them up and make it match. Swirl mark removal, red, you're gonna have some swirl marks, you need to do that. Then of course your hand glaze the polished panels, and then shop materials that were needed, you know, sandpaper, body filler, razor blades, tape. That's not part of the refinishing process, all part of the repair process. So in this case, with our calculated labor times at $50 an hour labor rate across the board for all the different operations, we're at $38.31 on a 2007 Ram pickup truck, which is a well-bonded procedure. And this is what the group came up with, but we decided to add a little bit of twist to it. What happens if we were going to do a 2019 vehicle? Same damage to the truck, let's say. I don't have a exemplar. Well, I have an exemplar vehicle here to show you what it looks like, but I don't have a exemplar vehicle or identical or similar vehicle damaged in the same fashion. So we're going to pretend the quarter and the bumpers hit basically the same way. So as we look at this, basically a lot of stuff staying the same. This bumper is only about $60 more expensive than the last one. And basically, as you look through this, you basically have most of the same identical procedures, not much change. The panel still gets well bonded on, like the past panel. There's a couple of different panels or construction to this vehicle that is not on the other one, funny enough. And so basically you have a lot of this stuff here. Once again, I picked one without ADAS system, and this is just a slightly different price on this one. It's $74.18. So we compare the two here, and actually the 2019, because of the part prices and the lack of two extra panels, is actually a little bit cheaper than the 2007. And this is just plain and simple putting a bedside panel on, nothing else included in this. And you know, the group went over this, and I try to show you the differences in price here, so that everyone could see exactly what the differences are. And it's not huge. It's not to go home and, you know, scream about or anything like that. And this is how I come up with, those who don't know me well enough or see me on Facebook, this is how I come up with my standard prices for a lot of stuff. I use $50 an hour labor rate as a standard, unless it's an aluminum car. Aluminum car, I got to use a little bit differently. But this gives you a basic idea of what you might be missing when doing the repairs or doing the labor on these vehicles and the prices. But hold your horses. What happens if we add the blends? So let's take a look. So now if we add the blends into this, okay, and if we go through this, some of the stuff is exactly staying the same, but then we're going to see some other stuff added in here as we go through this and listing the R&Is for stuff. So here's some of the stuff I'm going to add here, line 89, and then from here on out, I created a supplement basically. So you can see here I have no S1s, right? And now all of a sudden at line 89, I go here, and now all of a sudden I have my blends now that are going to come into play. All right, so you're going to see these now all S1. So we got blend the tailgate, prep the panel to a new undamaged panel. That is not an included operation to get that heavy orange peel that's on some of the vehicles, especially Chryslers, to get that smooth enough so you can blend over the top of it and remove some of the clear, not all the clear, obviously, but the clear down, smooth enough that paint will adhere to it. RNI the handle, the tailgate cover, the deflector, nameplate, replace. Clean and, the nameplate we're going to reuse on this one, and same thing with the medallion head. Clean the adhesive and reattach the adhesive. The cab, blend the uniside, right side uniside prep. RNI the weather strip on the vehicle, door opening areas, upper seal, step bar, the Mopar step bar. RNI the side windshield trim, scuff plates, upper trim, the lower trim on this particular vehicle, the roof molding, the back glass, RNI the back glass because it sits up against the edge there and there's really no room in there to mask it off. And here's all the operations for for removing the glass that's not an included operation, or materials that are going to be required for this. The windshield we can mask off in the front, so $6 and 0.5 to mask that off. We have the rear door because just blending that cab corner is not going to cover enough of that red color to really see a difference. So we got to blend that back door over there. Front door RNI, the fender, remove the seal on the back end over there so when we clear out the system. Restraint systems basically stay the same except for the side impact sensor. Impact sensor on the B pillar and the C pillar should be removed during this repair. Electronics, we got the antenna mast is in the way. We got to take that off on the fender for masking purposes. Splash shield stays the same. Let's see here. We added a little bit more time for the pre-wash because we're washing and cleaning up more of the vehicle area. Now we got to split up the bed to the body for covers and stuff because we are painting the body side panel. Let's see here, the denib and refinish or sanding and polishing change. Now it's 4.4 hours because obviously we painted more stuff. We had to add more time to the glazing and buffing, adjacent panel, swirl mark removal, hand glaze, and then the shop materials kind of increased a little bit, not too crazy. I think we went from 125 to 185. And we can take a look at the damage report, one versus the other. So we've got a $3,000 supplement on this, which basically comes out to be $10,912.83 to basically blend the side of the panels and paint the bedside panel. And the reason we use $50 an hour labor rate, obviously, is pretty much if you add up all the high rates and some of the low rates in the United States that shops seem to decide they want to accept by reading magazines and taking a look at database providers, what they're telling you the rates are across the country that some shops decide they want to take, or the majority will. You can average it out, it comes out to about $50. So we give you a nice even area there to figure out. So I think we can open us up to questions and answers if anyone has any on this or what they want to go over. And I think Kristen's coming back in here to yell at me.
No, I don't have anything to yell at.
Well, now she's sitting close to me, so it's just weird.
How's that weird?
It's just weird. You're just weird. I
don't get it.
Obviously you don't get it, but that's besides the point.
They're not coming back.
They're not coming back. They ran away. We'll probably go flying. That's probably what happened.
No questions yet. Come on, guys, let's get some questions in. I can honestly tell you that these people tonight have changed my business. Our average per RO has shot up dramatically by following the simple things that they say. Tony?
Agreed. It's been especially part of the C20 estimating group. I know we continue to learn every single time we're in on one of these and pick something else up, and absolutely it's changed us as well.
Look at Jason over there.
Let's give it a brief second and see if we get some questions.
I can't do it. Yeah.
That's Jason.
Awesome. It's a lot of information to digest. I think we all think we can write a bed panel, and then it starts to you see something like this and you're like, I never thought about charging for that or this or that. So it's a lot to bring in.
Well, and even just the welding tips. I mean, just that right there, you're like, oh my God, how did I miss this for all these years?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, forget about the welding tips as far as you're paying for them, whatever the case is. The issue is when we do shop inspections, most of the time, you know, Kristen's in the office most of the time and we're there for the 2 or 3 days. I'm in the back in the shop walking around and stuff. And one of the few things I look at is the paint booth area. And then I also go directly to the welders. And I take a look at the mag welders and I take a look at the contact tips, the nozzles. I take a look at some supplies there, and then I go to the resistance welders, and they're just pitiful. The tips are all mushroom back. They're misshapen because somebody's using a file or using some other tool besides the sharpener that you were given by the by the manufacturer of that welder, and no one ever wants to change their tips, and that's another big issue there. And you know, it's just surprising to me that people, you know, don't take care of their equipment the right way. And then sometimes it's training, you know, that they were sold the equipment and no one ever trained them totally on it. And that's another, you know, shame. You spend $20,000-$30,000 on a welder and no one teaches you how to use a resistance welder, which is supposed to be KISS, you know, keep it simple, stupid, you know, just walk over, turn the machine on, wait till all the lights come on and just start squeezing the trigger and the thing figures everything out. And no, you don't want to practice weld on a car. And that's part of the issue here.
Well, I'm not going to lie. When Mark and Vico came in to our shop, and we, you know, our chest was all puffed out, we're ready to go, and we came in and we scored very well, which I was proud of. But he said, "Yeah, they're not dressing the tips on the welder," and you know, it's kind of a punch to the jaw. And I think we did well after that, but it's just one of them things you don't think of. And I hope the guys were doing it before they were getting it, but doing it at the end to make sure that it's ready for the next one makes a lot more sense than leaving it to guess that the next guy's going to do it. You just make it an SOP and you're good to go after that.
Yeah, make sure it's ready to weld the next car. You know, actually, James, you know, yeah, you were pretty good, and we did find some things, and you actually took a gut punch, but you took it like a man, and you know, then you got the improvement. So, you know, you're coachable. That's what it takes.
Well, now I got 3 of them, so it's a little different than just one. So
I know.
Yeah,
I think Tony has a question for the group, I believe.
Yeah, we had
Okay.
one come in. So are we wanting to repair the vehicle or total it? I get that there are needed procedures, but there comes a time, even at $50 per hour, you total the vehicle and no one wins.
Okay, well, let me take that one. So I'm going to put my insurance hat on, right? Because I get to contribute.
Whose presentation is this? Is this mine or hers?
I get to contribute. All right, so here's the thing. You can decide anything that you want to charge for or not charge for. It is definitely your business. You get to make those business decisions. But what you don't get to do is make a decision with how the car is fixed. So if something is required, so in other words, you must dress both sides of the panel of the donor panel plus, or you know, your replacement panel plus for your donor flanges. You must apply all of the E-coat. You must do the adhesive. You must do all these things. You must do your test welds. You must do welder setup. These are the non-negotiables, so to speak, to the actuality of the repair. But if you don't want to charge for them, you absolutely don't have to. I mean, you can choose to give away anything that you want to do. Like, we talk about this all the time. We have 4 car washes on every estimate, right? We get paid for those
Minimum.
4 car
Right.
washes. But if you don't want to do that, if you only want to charge for 1 or if you want to charge for none, that's completely up to you. You're still going to pre-wash the car before you bring it in for repair, and you're going to wash it again before you head it over to your paint booth. You're going to do those things because you want a clean, nice repair job. But if you don't want to charge for them, absolutely. I think we get into this talk with ourselves way too often. And as an insurer, I don't care if you total the vehicle. I'm going to make more on the salvage than I will, you know, paying you to fix the car.
Right.
So I'm okay with the total loss. But we get so caught up in saving cars that we sometimes sacrifice required operations, some of which are safety. So when we talk about inspections required after collision, pulling steering column, seat belts, checking seat frames on Toyotas, we go, oh, no, that's too much. That's going to total the car. And it does. It's sometimes $3,000-$4,000 worth of stuff. But that's safety. So I can't make any safety decisions. I can't make any repair procedure decisions. I have to follow the procedures to fix the car. But if total loss is a worry for you and you worry that I'm going to lose that repair, then just choose what items you don't want to charge for, but please don't gamble with a customer by choosing things not to do. Now, I will tell shops, if you look through the OE procedures and there's things that you think aren't applicable to the repair, or you decide that that's just overkill or whatever, then I challenge you to have an upfront discussion with the customer. So at least set the customer down and say, these are the things that I'm supposed to do according to the person that made your car and according to iCar. These are the things I'm supposed to do to fix the car right. But I don't think we need to do them. If you'll be transparent in that way, then that's fair with the customer. I think sometimes we make decisions on what we think is reasonable to keep a car from totaling, and we don't fully disclose that with customers.
Well, in some cases, look, if a shop, the most successful shops total a lot of cars out, plain and simple. They repair the cars that are to be repaired. Do you run across a couple of times where these shops who total out a lot of vehicles will have a situation where the customer really needs the car, they're upside down? Yeah, the shop's going to do whatever they can to try and help the customer, as long as it's a safety issue or something like that isn't involved. If it's just repair issues and stuff like that, it's like, okay, look, I'll help you out a little bit.
I think if I'm on a part of a DRP program, total losses are an issue because I can't charge anything. I mean, so if your average total loss in the shop is a $2,500 total loss bill, that's about what some charges are getting for their average RO. But if you're on a program and you can't charge for total losses, then I can imagine totaling cars is
well, it's still total the car. I mean, total the car, right? I mean, the problem with this whole process of busy but broke is become very apparent during the COVID. Some of the biggest shops out there in the United States, billion-dollar shops, groups of shops were going belly up broke, couldn't pay their bills or anything because that busy but broke thing caught up with them. They weren't busy and they went broke because they couldn't pay their bills.
Well, and then there's some shops that's how I pay my technicians, so we want to keep those techs busy. But by any means, you can like I said, you can give away anything you want. You just can't not do things. And so as long as we're making those decisions that are taking care of the customer and fully transparent, do whatever's best for you.
Listen, you could buff a car for free, not buff a car. You could not mask a car, charge for masking a car. Don't charge for body shop supplies because you just want to keep buying supplies and just wasting your money on that, not getting reimbursed. That's great, but you cannot not repair the car properly.
Yep.
And that's my biggest pet peeve. You can do all the other stuff for free, but just repair it the right way. It's not my problem if you make a profit or not because you want to save a car. But you got to repair it properly.
Oh, Mark's coming to get us.
Oh, here comes Mark.
Hey, well, let me just say one thing. So just something to think about. So you're concerned about total losses. Okay, fine. So if you take, let's just say that there's $7,000 available for it. You could write an estimate for 11, but you've chosen not to charge 11. Take all the money that you have and apply that towards the proper repair, making sure that you do the right welds, the right corrosion protection and all that. And if there's not enough money left over to paint it, then they get the car not painted.
No one's going to die because it's not paint in their car.
So we're going back to
didn't
DeLoreans?
kill anybody. So all of a sudden, now the customer's like, well, wait a minute. I want the color to not be black. I want it to be red like the truck. It's really, you got to put the money towards the safety and what's going to kill somebody, not towards the cosmetics.
Well, tint your primer.
Oh, now, I think the principle for it here is that it is, we talked about it earlier today on the show. When you do everything that the OE requires, and then you estimate everything that the estimating system allows you to, it feels like you're totaling a lot of cars. And that's true. We do think that the total loss ratio.
But you didn't build them.
I know.
You didn't wreck it. You didn't put gas in it. You didn't smash it into a wall. You're here to fix it. And there's a book to tell you how to fix it. You want to make up your own, that's great. But when something goes wrong, like with John Eagle, because they wanted to listen to some clown that told them glue the roof on and not put the bolts back in, and then someone almost dies or gets burnt up in there, and now you have $48, $50 million in the hole that John Eagle's done now. And then even on top of that, I'm sure something happened down there.
31 million.
31 million, whatever the hell it is.
Come on.
And Tony regrets asking the question.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but of course you wouldn't send them out without paint, but if you take the money and put it there, you really would have the conversation with the customer then, wouldn't you? And that's the point.
But the bigger issue is complaining about total losses. The bigger issue about complaining about total losses is you have a bigger problem than totaling cars out that you don't even see. That's the issue. So when people tell me I have an issue with totaling cars out, you have a bigger problem than totaling cars out.
You eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Right.
And
I understand that, but you still have a bigger problem than just, well, I don't want to total every car out. Okay, good. So that means that you have other issues you need to look at also.
Yeah. Pick 3 things that Larry said and implement those, and then see how that goes and kind of roll through it. If you take that estimate that's $3,000 right now and make it 12 grand overnight, you're going to have a conversation that's going to be a little tougher with insurance companies. Now, be willing to have that conversation.
That's when I show up at your shop. And go,
Yeah, exactly. I know.
My old hat, right?
I know. Okay. So it's not my show, it's Larry and Kristen's, but I
No,
just
you're,
thought I'd add
yeah,
that.
that's where. And Tony has no more
Thank you
questions.
for that. Larry, I know
no one else is on the line anymore. They left.
They quit.
everybody else left. No, they're all still here. Larry, I know you've talked about this in your C20 estimating class. I didn't see it pop through in a question, but for some people that might not have saw it, you've got several different labor rates listed on your estimate, and one of them says non-cert operations.
Sure.
Maybe you could just address that real quick for the people that might not have caught that.
Sure, I break up my labor procedures. I'm not a fan of management systems at all. My shops, some very hugely successful shops, are all hourly, and they don't use management systems. You know, they got some sort of QuickBooks or something like that that works or integrates, you know, just to figure out how much money they're making and stuff back and forth, but they don't look at numbers, you know, I guess you would say percentage wise and stuff like that. So what I did is, and I don't know if you guys are still seeing this, I'm just going to go cheat myself a little bit here so I can go back here and read down the list here I want to read. Basically what I have listed here is going to be what you have to do inside the repair shop, which basically comes down to, you know, your body labor stays body labor, your paint labor stays paint labor, mechanical labor is anything that has an M next to it, except in certain cases like scanning and stuff like that, I'll put down as diagnostic. I do have some glass operations, so that's all those breakdowns. S for structural labor or frame labor is under those frame departments. Now, non-certified operations are people who are not or don't need to be trained in the shop, such as the people who wash the car, people who buff the car. So if I want to have a tiered labor rate, especially with my aluminum vehicles, or you've seen me post my own Dodge Durango online. We break those down. So, you know, the labor rate on my Dodge Durango was $95 an hour for paint and body. And then the frame was $125, mechanical was $125. And non-certified operations was $65 an hour. All right, and in New York State, it's around about, you know, give or take $2 or $3. It's $50 an hour labor rate. Most shops accept. We don't accept that at my main client shop, and I don't accept that. That I'm the insured. I'll sue you. So they paid. Plain and simple, they paid. So that's that breakdown, and that's, you know, that really comes in to prove that I'm not being unreasonable. There's no reason I need to pay somebody $125 an hour to buff a car, but I can do it at $65 an hour based on the payroll and information that we have on what it costs us to actually work on those vehicles and our cost of doing business per hour on how to do it. So non-certified is for masking, buffing, any job that you really don't have to take you know, 9, 10 ICAR classes or OEM classes on. That's what I classified it as. So this helps out a lot of shops on their repairs and to prevent certain costs from total. And I'll be honest with you, an Audi A8 that's 4 years old in New York is almost worthless. You know, even at, you know, like $60 an hour labor rate, it's almost worthless because of the part prices and the amount of labor that goes into doing that quarter panel. So we had to do something different. Does that answer it for you?
Yep. Had another question come in. Was removing the airbag fuse done for the purposes of welding? I've seen this along with DNR of the battery a couple of times before, but wasn't sure if this is why you did so in this case.
That would be yes. You look up the repair procedures. Some companies only require you to disconnect the battery, wait 2 to 5 minutes so that the system's dead. Volkswagen was popular for years. They don't do it anymore. Volkswagen used to make you take off the negative and then the positive cable and then cross the 2 cables to try and drain the system out. The A8s or the R8s or some of the newer Audis, the Q7 and stuff, you actually need the computer system to shut the system down properly before disconnecting the battery. So like you got to shut the computer down like almost like your laptop. You know, you get an update.
But for this one, was there a specific reason
Yes,
why
well,
fuse, not battery?
Yeah, you got hold. I disconnect the battery, and then I also had to pull a fuse. That's what the manufacturer.
That's the procedures.
That's the procedure. So you got to check each procedure. GM had some of their vehicles that required you to pull a fuse also. On some of them, I noticed some of the newer ones they don't. So it's always going to be disconnect the battery once again to make sure that there's nothing in the system. You're not going to drain. The worst thing to do is drain a battery in the shop and then keep charging it. It's never going to keep that same charge. So you don't want to kill the battery. If it's an older vehicle and the batteries, well, 2-3-year-old car with a 2-3-year-old battery in there, you drain that enough times in the shop, and you got to keep boosting it or keep charging it. The customer's going to get that car back and call you back. My car broke down someplace.
I think an important thing, and Mark, you may want to perk up here.
Mark.
Back there. Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So it's not an either or. So I do want to make that clear. It's not a pull the fuse or disconnect the battery.
No.
It's going to depend on the OE. One thing that you have to keep in mind when you're doing any welding operation, current will still flow through the vehicle from your welder, which is why you've got to detach anything within 14 inches of, like, detach and remove. If you're 14 inches within the weld zone and it's electronic, you got to get it out of there.
And
Even
your work
even if
clamp has to stay as close to your torch handle, your MIG or your mag welder, depending on what you're doing. That clamp, where am I here? There it is. The clamp has to be as close to the welding torch as you
Right.
can. You don't want to hook it up to the front bumper reinforcement or the front rail and then be welding the quarter panel on, because now you're going to have that electrical current go through the car and it's going to find the least passive resistance, and it's going to go through all those 10, 12, 14, 16 gauge wires immediately.
So
And
you'll have a
fry
lot of
something.
OEs that, even though there is a detached the battery requirement, like this particular vehicle, you will also have the fuse requirement, because that's still their concern, that even with the battery detached, current will still come through the vehicle and compromise that fuse.
Still energizes regardless, yeah.
Correct. And so there's a misconception that I can do one or. I can never do a battery surge protector. If you have any of those in your
Yeah, no.
shop, or
Get
your
rid of 'em.
technicians have bought them from a Snap-on or a tool dealer, you need to go through the toolboxes
Memory
and
savers, anything like that, you don't want.
throw them away immediately. They are a liability to you having them in your facility. And that's one of the dangers of collision repairs, because technicians do have to buy their own tools, and we send them on tool trucks, and we don't know a lot of times what they're coming back to their toolbox with.
Yep.
That can put us in jeopardy. But yeah, so the important thing there is it is not an either or. And a lot of times it's a dual requirement, because the OE is still concerned with surge and current going on the vehicle.
Excellent.
Okay, so just want to remind everybody of the chat section in this. So if you get your questions in, you honestly have 3 of the smartest people in the collision repair industry. These
You
guys
know,
are,
Jason's over there though.
Well, Jason's over there too. Yeah, we got 4.
4, I guess. I haven't seen Jason all night.
Jason's been quiet so far.
I agree with everything you said.
I agree with everything.
So I just want to plug all the C20 stuff. They have painters, they have body technicians, they have management. I'm missing one. What am I missing, Kristen?
So there's so the purpose of C20 is that everyone in your shop can train every month. That we don't believe a 20 group's just for owners and somewhere you fly to some exotic destination to do 4 times a year. So it starts with our owner manager group, and then we have our estimator group, our technician group, refinish, and then leadership. The leadership class is a lot of psychology, negotiations, kind of that black hat kind of stuff that I like. That's the old insurance in me coming out, and we do a lot of stuff that I used to teach at the good old neighbor. So that's some good stuff. We have a VIP program. Everyone in your shop, no matter how many people you have, it's rooftop pricing, $300 a month, and you get every one of the 20 groups, which means everybody, you can have your painters log in, you can have your estimators, everybody gets a chance to train. And it's a lot of fun. We do this. So Larry's estimating group gets together every month and takes a different damage scenario, a different vehicle, goes through the OE repair procedures, writes an estimate. Last month, the team from Subaru, so the representatives from Subaru
They
joined
showed
us
up, yeah.
and wrote estimates with us, and it was great to have the OE there. Yep, and then so Jason's saying in the technician group in December, Subaru will be back, and your technicians would be able to talk directly to Subaru as we go through repair procedures. So we give everyone that singular access to an OE where you can get your why am I pulling a steering column? Why am I doing this? You got a question, and we'll let you ask them directly to the people that wrote them.
2 of my 20 groups, we just looked up repair information. I just showed everybody, and I went down rabbit holes nobody realized before, and they were just, I mean, the Chrysler one that I did before this, and this is why you don't see much of the Chrysler procedures in this one, is because we just did the Chrysler class. That was 2 months It was a 2-part series that we did. I think it was over 3 hours of information of just literally clicking on one procedure and just every other line there was a hyperlink, and I went into it, went back, and then when it clicked the next hyperlink, went through that stuff, and then everyone was like, holy crap. So this is why you have 2-3 hours worth of repair information you have to look up before you even get to, writing an estimate of doing your repair plan and stuff. So this is what the 20 groups do. And then sometimes what'll happen is Jason will take what I do in the estimating, and that'll come up in the technician the following month. Because they want to go over some of the repair stuff. The managers or the estimators that are in my class want to go, oh, well, my technicians need to see this, so they need to understand this. And
the goal is to get the whole shop thinking together. So
Yeah.
if everybody's training under the same rooftop and going through the same classes, and then that should spark conversation. And if we're training together, we're just going to get better together.
And it depends on the topic that month. Most of the time, it's just us
That's a
singularly.
t-shirt, Mark. Better together.
It's usually singular, but Jason shows up on mine, Kristen will show up on mine, I'll show up on Daniel's, Daniel will show up on from the paint department, he'll show up in Jason sometimes. Yeah, we'll just take care of a topic. In a few minutes, we'll be on there. Just we'll be on there for the whole session, but we got a little section just for ourselves, so that there's that overlap between departments or between technicians, owners, and painters and stuff like that, and everyone understands it better.
It's a good time. If you happen to be, I'll do a little plug. If you happen to be an NCS or an SSI customer, they are sponsoring their shops to do the 20 groups to free for the rest of 2020. So if that happens to be your job, or you can get in touch with your guy and they'll sign you up, and you can try out all the 20 groups for November and December at no cost.
If somebody wants to join and get involved with the C20 group, how do they do that?
So you can just go, and we'll load her up with work, right? So you can just send an email directly to Holly, HOLLY @collisionhub.com. You can ask her, hey, tell me more about them, or if there's a specific group you're interested in, she'll walk you through them. Or on our website, collisionhub.com, if you go to the store and then click subscriptions, all of the subscriptions are there. So the C20 groups, the Pick a Tech, the texting service for technicians, it's all there for people to get. And we did launch this week our new LMS system. So that's soft skill training, and ADAS and welding is going in there. So we'll have ADAS classes coming up through an LMS that you can take and chart, and then get credit through AMI and get your AMI designation.
And also on the store area, if you go to shop area, you go to training, we have some online classes too that is still available for purchase, and that's where the new launch of the post repair inspection and the RTA classes will be. That's also where Erica Eversman has her listing of classes for the legal aspect of it. We have the QR class, and we have the frame measuring class that's on there, and that you can watch at your leisures. Take as much time as you want to watch it.
Yeah, I recommend having a lot of time to watch Erica's classes, because you got to pause and take notes and pause. She drops bombs in those two classes.
Yes.
They're amazing.
A lot of information there.
Yeah.
Kristen, can you explain the Pick a Tech real quick?
Yeah, so one of the things we noticed, unfortunately, access to OEM repair information is not this industry's problem. It's one of those things that we like to say, but really information is everywhere, from the iCar RTS portal to all data to the OE websites. Even estimating systems have some procedures. Still not a huge fan of that, but some procedures there. It's the interpretation of those procedures. It's overwhelming, right? So you start doing a research, and just a bed panel is 60 different documents that you have to pull from an OE. I have to read, interpret it, put all that together, and then I got to go apply it to the vehicle. So I got to take that and then put it to work in what I do to the car. And so that's overwhelming. Add to it that a lot of this is written in, a combination of engineering versus Japanese or wherever the car was made, Europe, German. There's a lot lost in translation. So this service it's a texting service, because we all can do text messaging. We all have our smartphones with us. It allows the technician, while standing in his stall, to take a picture of what he's working on, or a picture of a document that he doesn't understand, or just a question, text it into us. Larry and Jason work that service. I get in there occasionally. I'm sorry if you end up with me. But we take that question, we help we're not going to give you OE procedures. We can't. That's copyright violation. But we can tell you, yes, there's something available. You should go search for it. If you have OE subscriptions and we have that in your file, that you do have a subscription to All Data and it's verified or whatever, then we can give you a link. Okay, here's the procedure. Click here on your All Data subscription and you're going to be able to open the document as well. But we can also answer your questions. So Jason, you get a lot of how-to questions like, okay, I read this, but I still don't understand how I'm supposed to weld this panel on. so if you look at Honda, that's 32 individualized settings for just the spot welder alone. That's a lot for any technician to have to kind of comprehend and do. So that's what Pick a Tech's designed to do. It's that two-way conversation between a tech in the field and then us here helping them interpret and then apply those repair procedures. But we also get some estimating questions that we'll answer. And then I occasionally get insurance negotiation questions because Jason will text me and go, there's a State Farm question online. That one's yours. And I'm like, okay, here I come. You know?
Usually there's a State Farm question online. You better answer it before Larry does.
So it's a texting helpline is what we hope it is for shops when you need an extra answer.
Phone a friend.
Well, you're not a friend.
Well, no.
Lifeline.
I don't see any other questions coming in, and I know you guys have had a super long, successful day with the World's Fair. You guys did a great job. So Kristen, Larry, Mark, Jason, in the corner, thank you everybody for being here tonight on behalf of Kansas and Nebraska Auto Body Associations. We thank you all for joining us this evening. We've got another series coming up next week. Who is that, James?
Hell, I don't remember.
Oh, come on, man.
We're on top of this.
I'm looking back.
Next week, we got Tim Roenick and creating an in-house tech program with Axel Nobel. So should be a good program. So everybody have a great evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next Monday.
Kristen, Larry, Mark, Jason, thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining.
Thanks.
Thanks.